Last time we discussed Linda Flynn Fletcher's manipulative and gaslighting ways, and it's now clear to us she's well aware of Phineas and Ferb's doings, and she has no problem taking advantage of Candace's obsession to profit off of it. But what if we just scratch the surface? What if I told you Linda was hell-bent on getting back at her own daughter and was purposefully tormenting her and driving her insane? What if she had some partners in crime who helped her behind the scenes in a devious master plan? What if I told you those partners were Phineas and Ferb? But let's proceed one step at a time, shall we? Let's put a few ideas from my last video aside, so let's forget all about the books for now. Instead, let's try to figure out a new way Linda can actually earn money for her family and for herself, and understand how she truly feels about her daughter. So, let's take the episode Face Your Fear, when Linda and Candace go visit Denville Space Laboratory, or Labrador, and are greeted by Jeremy's dad who works there. As he's talking with Linda, they have this extremely interesting conversation.
I'm flattered you'd be interested in our humble facility, considering your background in astrophysics.
Oh yeah, listen, that's kind of a secret, so don't...
Oh, I'm sorry.
Hold up. How does she have a background in astrophysics? And more importantly, how come she wants to keep it a secret? Who does she want to keep this from? How are we supposed to believe that Linda, of all people, is a brilliant astrophysicist? Such a career would require an in-depth knowledge of physics, astronomy, chemistry, and lots of more scientific disciplines on her part. So are we to believe she's a brilliant woman who's been hiding her gift and sneaking out of the house every night to do researches and discoveries in astrophysics? What is she, a ninja scientist? No, she's a cartoon mom. She buys groceries all day and irresponsibly leaves her children at home alone. Clearly, she's taking credit for someone else's inventions and discoveries in that field, cause there's no way that's her doing, please. That woman thinks the first ingredient in knitting a garment is love.
What do you mean, wool?
Think about it. If Linda was just working a regular job on her own, then why would she keep her involvement in that field a secret? There must be someone else behind the scenes helping her. It would have to be someone quite close to her, who's not interested in getting credit for all their work, but at the same time smart and knowledgeable enough in lots of scientific fields. It's obviously Phineas and Ferb, I already told you. They are the best candidates after all, think about it. The boys did explain that the only reason why they make their inventions is because they wanna have fun, and certainly not to get rich, otherwise they would have already become very well-known billionaires quite easily. Now, why would the boys get involved in this? Let's suppose that they are actually letting their mom get credit for their scientific discoveries and inventions, but what could they possibly gain from this? Well, let's address the elephant in the room. The show's co-creator Dan Povenmire confirmed that Phineas and Ferb can afford their inventions thanks to the earnings from their first roller coaster ride on the first day of summer. After that day, the boys invested that money in other inventions and small businesses like the lemonade stands, their fashion craze, entrance tickets to events, rides, and much more. So great, that explains a lot, but a question still stands. How did they get the money to build the roller coaster in the first place? It's not like they built it with their savings, they had to receive a significant financial help from someone. They could have stolen the money from their parents or someone else, but it's unlikely because they are way too honest and reputable and law-abiding up! Which is the very reason why the vehicles they built can only be operated through remote controls, as legally they're not old enough to drive. So the most logical explanation is that they actually received the money from their parents and built the roller coaster with it. After all, being minors, the boys would still need their parents' approval if they wanted to open and own a bank account to keep all the money they make with their inventions. In fact, people ask, aren't they a little young to be building those things? And yes they are, that's exactly the point. How could they do half the things they do without their parents' permission? Remember the bank account thing? The law-abiding part? Good. Now, I am talking about both parents here, so it's really up to you if you want to consider Lawrence as part of this as well. He usually just asks if something's okay with his wife, so he might be involved or not, so you tell me your thoughts in the comments, but for the sake of simplicity, let's just focus on the boys and Linda for now. So would it be hard to— oops, I dropped my tinfoil hat. So would it be hard to believe it was Linda who gave the boys the money they needed to get started with their inventions, while in return they let her profit off and take credit for their major scientific inventions and discoveries? In fields like, I don't know, astrophysics? They might not make money off of the inventions that end up being destroyed, blown up, or disintevaporated by Doofenshmirtz's innators, but we know for a fact that not all of their contraptions suffer the same fate, and many of them end up being moved or stored away by the boys themselves. So said contraptions can be a pretty significant source of income for Phineas, Ferb, and their mom. This way, those two can afford more inventions and are granted permission by their parents, while Linda can afford to go buy groceries 3 times a day and leave her children alone at home just how she likes. It's a win-win situation. But the question is, why are they keeping this a secret from Candace? To answer that, we need to take a step back. First things first, it's no secret Candace needs to keep her attempts to bust her brothers going. In fact, in the best lazy day ever, it was established how Candace cannot live without trying to bust her brothers. How every single action of her routine revolves around trying to get those two in trouble. And when you take the busting away from her, she faces a mental breakdown and goes even more insane than usual. So doesn't Linda realize how much this whole matter of the inventions disappearing and people not believing her is taking a toll on Candace? Oh, she does, and that's precisely what she's aiming for, driving Candace insane. And Phineas and Ferb help her in her plan, doing everything they can to exasperate and madden their sister. But Jacopo, don't Phineas and Ferb love their sister? At the end of the day, they want her to be happy and healthy, right? Wrong. Since they really love their sister so much, how often have the boys decided to build something right in front of their mom in order to show it to her? How many times did they answer Candace's cry for help or try to make her overcome her obsession, which is clearly consuming her? Yeah, they never did. And in the Second Dimension movie, Phineas made it quite clear that he and Ferb are aware of Candace's busting attempts, so it's not like they don't realize what's going on. They know Candace goes insane seeing their inventions, but they never stop inventing, even when she begs them to stop. Take the episode Candace's Big Day. Candace is organizing her aunt's wedding, and the boys keep taking everything to the extreme despite Candace told them to keep it all simple and normal. Meanwhile, Phineas kept trying to make Candace feel bad for not involving him and Ferb in the organization.
Well, Aunt Tiana said we should help, and it is her wedding when you think about it.
All right.
They seem to be nice to their sister, but it's all a show, a facade. That's gaslighting 101. Show yourself as lovable as possible and fake interest in the other person every once in a while, say giving them gifts or spending some time together, only to turn your back on them when they actually need help. They give her just enough attention to avoid any suspicion, but ultimately play with her head, lying and deceiving her. They don't lie or deceive, you're sure? Remember the episode Don't Even Blink? Candace asked her brothers whether it was them who made the inventions disappear and if they knew where the machines disappeared to, but Phineas replied saying he knew nothing about that. That's not what we know. He lied. He lied to her face. They have dozens of contraptions lying around the house, or better, hidden around the house, like their hoverboards under the backyard, their superhero lair inside the tree, multiple objects like the survey machine, their parents' car, or their drawing board, which can all transform into high-tech machines and clever inventions. Not to mention, they can literally lower the house itself into the ground at the click of a button. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. These are all inventions that never got destroyed or taken away. If they actually cared for Candace's well-being, then how many times have they brought these inventions to their mother's attention? They never did. How come? Because it's all a ruse, a charade, make-believe, all a plan to mess with Candace all along. They put on a show, plot and scheme, all in order to trick and gaslight her. Linda is not simply turning a blind eye to her son's doings, she helped them get started and now wants them to go on because she's interested in making Candace lose her mind. So by the time Linda comes back home, the boys always make their inventions disappear just to vex Candace, making her think she's so close to winning only to later crush all of her hopes. And they kept doing that all summer, making Candace lose it in a jail of her own creation. As we said in the last video, the inventions often mysteriously disappear, so the boys don't really worry about it. But in case they don't disappear, then those two take it upon themselves to destroy or hide them before their mom comes home.
If the molecular splitter doesn't just disappear when this is over, we should really consider destroying it.
At the end of the day, Phineas and Ferb always have a way of making their inventions disappear, leave the backyard, or turn into harmless objects before Candace drags their mom to the place. But of course, if Doofenshmirtz's antics end up cleaning everything up before the boys do it, then that's a bonus. And this easily explains why Linda got mad at the boys those few times she quote-unquote busted them. She wasn't mad because their inventions were dangerous or because they didn't ask for permission, but because they didn't keep their end of the deal, and they didn't manage to make the inventions disappear by the end of the day so they could mess with Candace. So the most important question now is, why? Why is Linda so hell-bent on making Candace suffer this much, involving her sons and perhaps her husband in this insane attempt to destroy and torture her own daughter? What could this girl possibly have done to her? It's as if she took the thing she loved the most and destroyed it, ruining her life, crushing her dreams, or...
The one-hit wonder. A musical act goes to the top of the charts. Then they throw a big diva tantrum, lose their label, and they fade to obscurity. Before you know it, their song ends up as elevator music. Years later, they have a reunion concert. After that, they never sing again, and no one remembers them.
You never told me you were a pop star!
Oh, yeah. Well, that was long before you were born. Long before you were born. Before you were born. No one remembers them.
No way. Candace's birth could not get in the way of Linda's music career as Lindana. That's impossible. The dates don't even match. The show is set in the late 2000s and Linda became a pop star in 1985. Then she said years later she had a reunion concert, so okay, let's say 5 or 6 years later and we get 1991. So that's when we know her career as a pop star ultimately ended. So if you add 15 years, that's Candace's age, plus 9 months of pregnancy, you get 2007. Late 2000s. Oh my god! Is Linda actually trying to get back at Candace because her birth put an end to her dream and career as a pop star? Well, she does care very much about that part of her life, gets all worked up and excited when someone recognizes her, and cannot stand when people don't pay respect to Lindana, so it could be a possibility, you know?
Weren't you Lindana?
Yes, I was. I can't believe you recognized me. It was fun, but I was happy to give it up to raise a family.
Lindana! Now that's a blast from the past. I wonder where she is now. Probably singing at retirement homes.
Oh, give me that.
She was a famous pop star, threw a diva tantrum, and faded into obscurity. But then, years later, when she was ready to start all over again with a reunion concert and all, she got pregnant with Candace, so her dream and career died and withered. No tour, no Lindana comeback, no more dream of being a pop star. It's interesting actually how much Linda cared for that phase of her life, so much so that she's always taken every chance she got at doing a comeback as Lindana, with one exception. Actually, this is curious. In Ladies and Gentlemen, Mid-Max Modem, when a promoter wanted Linda and her husband to sign for an extended tour, she refused. Why? Because Candace was enjoying that. She would have loved to be the daughter of a pop star, plus being a singer has always been one of Candace's biggest dreams. So Linda gave up on that tour just to get back at Candace. Since her daughter crushed her dream of being a pop star, Linda wanted Candace to go through the same. And it's not like she refused because she didn't like the life of a pop star anymore or something, because she did go on seven more comeback tours in the following 20 years, as she revealed in Phineas and Ferb's Quantum Boogaloo.
2 more comeback tours and I get a free pie.
So every time she had the chance, she went back to perform as Lindana, except the one time Candace could actually have benefited from it. It's clear Linda never gave up on her dream. She never wanted to stop in the first place, but she probably had to in order to raise Candace. But come on, would Linda really go to such extreme lengths just to settle her score with Candace and do all these horrible things we talked about in this video just to get back at her? Well, this might be a little extreme, but need I remind you, nobody knows what really happened to her first husband. You know, the one who seemed like he disappeared and nobody ever mentions in the show. I'm not saying she definitely did something to him, but if her first husband was a good man, then they would talk about him and there would be pictures of him in the house, whether he was alive or dead. Instead, it's like he never existed. So maybe, just maybe, he wasn't that good of a man and Linda just disposed of him. After all, it's him who got her pregnant with Candace and later Phineas, so she got her revenge on Candace and her father for getting in the way of Lindana and her fun. You don't believe she murdered her first husband, really? Okay then, whose skull was she washing in the episode Skiddly Wafers, huh? Huh? This is getting out of hand, I'll stop. After all, this is just a theory. A Phineas and Ferb theory. Yeah, everybody wanted me to say that last time. So, we're done arbitrarily taking bits of evidence here and there from a show that ended several years ago, ignoring lots of crucial details and key scenes that will probably confute what we just talked about, with the only purpose of proving a ridiculously convoluted and questionable theory that ultimately no one believes. After all, isn't that what Christmas is all about? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the potato button, and I'll gladly see you next time with some new theory perhaps. And don't take this one too seriously, okay? Ciao!